Hey everybody, welcome to one more round with Josh Norris. I'm stoked today. We've got Dillon Pollard here, a leadership expert, and we're going to talk about all kinds of fun stuff today. But before we get into it, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss episodes like this. Go ahead and leave a comment for us, and we appreciate that. So, Dillon, welcome, man. Good to see you.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man. I'm excited to dive in, talk leadership, talk life, basketball, sports, and just impact the audience, man.
Absolutely. Well, we met at Arizona Entrepreneurs. How long has it been? A few months now?
Yeah, a couple of months. I think it was at one of the events Devin put on, and socials.
Yeah. And shout out to Devin and all he's doing over Arizona Entrepreneurs. It's crazy how small the entrepreneur world is now.
Yeah.
Going to events like that, meeting these guys. But you impressed me because you're a relatively young guy, right? 25 or something like
27,
that.
yeah.
27.
Yeah.
But you got such a good head on your shoulders, and then learning a little bit about your story. Thought it'd be fun to talk, not only about leadership and what you do there for a career, but you were a professional basketball player, right?
Yeah. So I played overseas, in New Zealand and Puerto Rico. Played at the professional level. Also did a little bit of ministry. We talk about faith, talk about life change. It's just we can dive into that. But yeah, I definitely had some cool experiences. Played in some prisons against inmates. Played, just played all over the country with Puerto Rico, and then New Zealand. We flew around Christchurch, Dunedin, and Auckland, all that, and got some cool experiences. Ate some Marmite, and it was definitely a cool experience. And
Marmite?
Vegemite, sorry. I think Marmite and Vegemite. But anyways, that's their culture.
Okay.
They so it's like kind of a food and a sauce. But yeah, and so we did just the whole culture experience. The haka, right, is pretty famous and familiar through the Islanders called the Kiwi, but talking about in New Zealand and blah blah. But it's cool, man. Culture experience, right? Feeling other people's areas, their environments, and just learning and growing through basketball as a platform.
Yeah, which is amazing. That was my sport that I loved growing up, and unfortunately there was two things I was missing, and that was talent and ability. Other than that, I had a shot like you wouldn't believe. I had the work ethic.
Sure.
But when did you know that you might have what it takes to play professionally?
Yeah. So long story short, man. I mean, I just kind of throughout basketball. I mean, I was pretty taller throughout my life, and going into even middle school, man. And honestly, that was a cool, looking at Rocky Balboa, like that challenging mark of going through adversity, going through facing the trials, and being one of the, non-athletic, kind of just growing inside my body. Mm-hmm. And even middle school, didn't play a lick. Honestly, didn't play at all. Rode the bench. And then going into 8th grade, summer of my 8th grade year, going into 9th grade, it was just grind season, man. I literally Rocky Balboa, it's interesting. I'm looking right at him, but just running the hills, running sprints, all that good stuff, getting myself in shape, but also strength, conditioning. And I think just through that time, I also grew a couple inches and grew into my body, and so my shot started developing my athletic abilities, and so. It was just cool to see that growth and that acceleration through putting in the hard work and the effort, and the intentionality of hey, I really can do this, And so I started 9th grade year, going into 10th, got into varsity, going into junior and senior year, and so that's when things really started rapidly developing. Literally, junior year, first game, the news is there and stuff, and I get on a fast break, they throw it to me, and I hanging from the rim with my tongue out like Jordan.
Yeah.
And just on the front of the paper. So it kind of built some hype and stuff. I just really developed that, again, kind of the momentum in high school, and then, played collegiately, and then had the opportunity to play overseas too. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So when you went over to play overseas in Puerto Rico, and you said New Zealand, right?
New Zealand, yeah.
What was your favorite place of both?
They're just two totally different cultures and islands. I think New Zealand it's just super tropical. It's like adventure paradise. So I guess kind of Puerto Rico is paradise, and New Zealand is kind of the adventure central. There's a lot of zip lining, 4-wheelers, off road, and then there's just tons of stuff to do. And I'm an adrenaline junkie, so this is one of the only places you can snowboard down a mountain, and then you can literally go surfing in the same day. Wow. You literally snowboard down and you can go surfing, and it's that kind of climate and just the cool opportunities there. So they're just two totally different. I think my answer would be New Zealand, just because there was so many more experiences, a longer season there,
Yeah.
And just the people, man. It was just so inviting, super cool, and just the Islander, the Kiwis, man. So.
Now, what got you out of playing basketball?
Yeah, so I always joke and say I got married and started eating chocolate chip cookies and kind of ended the career. But no, really,
You got that Charles Barkley look.
Yeah, that's right. Round on the rebound.
Yeah.
I'm Auburn guy, so that's actually Charles is pretty familiar. Chuck. So yeah, man. But I think just kind of throughout the career started to get like a transition season. Just really felt in my spirit, felt it in my heart, and I think that it was just something. It was time to go from ball to business, and so had that transition, that shift, and like I said, got married, and that's the whole thing there. So, but yeah, man, I think it was just that time to shift and pivot into something long term.
Yeah, that's awesome. What did you learn from that season of your life, playing ball?
Yeah, playing ball, learned a lot. Character, determination, adversity. I can simplify it to 3 P's: patience, persistence, and perseverance. Right, and I think just that patience through the process, trust in the process as your body develops, as just the whole journey. Persistence, pushing through adversity, being consistently pushing through adversity, and then just perseverance, persistence kind of go hand in hand, but it's just like that concept of enduring. One of my friends says, endure pain to avoid suffering. Mm-hmm. And so just kind of walking through, growing through it, not going through it. It was just a cool opportunity to just to keep at it, right, and see the develop and the growth happen and the fruits of my labor as I continue to keep going. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, and now you've transitioned to business. How has the transition been? I mean, obviously there's some major skills that you just talked about that you can take into business, but what's that been like? I know it's hard for a lot of athletes.
Yeah, it has, and it hasn't been easy for me, man. Just going through a lot of mental health is one of my platforms and challenges that I walk through for sure. A lot of athletes do, right? You're such a grind. You go 2-3 a days, and then you're no a days and all, and practice, whatever it is, and you're having to create your own rhythm, consistency, routines. So I had to reestablish all those outside of basketball, fitness, and so I did. I gained a lot of weight. That was probably 2 years ago. I was 300 pounds.
No kidding.
I'm sitting 235 now. In the past 2 years, I've just gotten back in a rhythm, consistency. But I think to answer your question, I think on the business side, I've learned just so much transitioning into business of, it's still similar principles, mindset shift. You have to have perspective shift, grit, determination, ways to shift and pivot when things don't go your way, right? As entrepreneurs, we all know that. So those are kind of some of the things that I've been able to apply. Leadership wise, I say leadership expert. I really, I think that I'm always continuing to grow and develop, but I think the principles of leadership are pretty simple. Lead yourself before you can lead others, and just be a man of your word, integrity, right? Mm-hmm. Walking it out, not talking about it, but being about it. So I think just kind of through all that, man, I think that's some of my takeaways. Obviously, we can go into like the transition, what that looked like if you want, but that's just some of the kind of the principles that carry over into business.
Yeah. So what was the transition? What made you believe that you were going to be an entrepreneur rather than going to get some corporate job?
9 to 5.
Yeah.
Sure. So that for me, I've always been ambitious. That drive, that determination, kind of that I go back to. But it's like I got a buddy of mine, Andy V. We call him F45 Gym. Mm-hmm. There's several locations all across the country. Well, he had 2 in Mobile, Alabama, which was where I played college in the South Alabama area. So he developed that knack for entrepreneurship, kind of overflowed into me, poured into me some, inspired me to go to this conference. And it was an entrepreneurship conference. I'd kind of been introduced to Gary Vee, Grant, all these people. And then I started to develop this, I can take my ambition, my hunger, and turn it into business. And there can be something special that comes out of it. I've not noticed, you think of Shaquille O'Neal, dude's crushing it.
Yeah.
Kobe, right? In his past, all these business deals that he did and stuff, and just I was like, all right, let's see what it looks like. So I went to this conference. Long story short, I feel like to share this because this is actually a pivotal part of my story.
Yeah.
But I went to this conference. Josh, I had $200 in the bank account, and my wife said, I told her I feel like I need to go to this, and she's like, yo, like I think you do. Like I believe in you. The conference cost $180. So I had $20 on my bank at this conference, right?
Yeah.
And I'll kind of fast forward through it because it's a long story, but the powerful moment in that, man, was $20 in my bank account. I'm at this conference. I know nobody there. My dad takes a train ride from Huntsville, Alabama to New Orleans because he couldn't afford like a plane ticket. He comes to support me. We're there. It's an awesome, incredible experience. Meet a ton of people that are in the industry that I'm in now. And it's cool how things go full circle. But Dad came to support me. Wife was supporting me. So through all this, like I had a ton of support. And my takeaway was going into that conference, I left. And before I left, one speaker, his name's Coach Burt. He's a former coach in women's basketball turned business. And so I'm like, all right, I need to follow this dude. Like he's kind of an influencer to me. So he's been on stage with Grant, 10X stage, all that good stuff. Now he's based out of Nashville. So he became my mentor. And so I started to get mentorship from him. So not to get too much on him, but I think the core to this is like investing into yourself. And so I started to invest, like I did in my skill sets in basketball and invest in the business. So I didn't have his program was like $1,000, $997, whatever it was. I didn't have it at all. And so I told him, I was like, I'll do whatever it takes. So he gets my wife on. It's a whole ordeal, like just trying to get my wife to buy in because we're super new with personal development.
Yeah.
Now I'm over 50, 60 grand in the past 2 years just investing in myself. But I think that really started the shift of like, all right, let's start building a skill set. Let's start getting into sales, that kind of thing. But I want to kind of go back to the story because literally, dude, it's kind of part of faith in my story is leaving that conference. I invested $20, the rest of the $20 into a guy who's a future business partner now, but I just felt to buy him dinner. I was like, dude, it was a drink. I bought him a drink, right? So
which pretty much takes up the whole $20.
Zero. Yeah, exactly. In New Orleans, especially in this Marriott. So I'm leaving. I call my wife. I'm like, I have no idea how I'm gonna get home. Like I really don't know. And so someone tapped me on the shoulder. It's probably an angel, and just said, hey, here's I want to gift you with this. And it was just enough gas to get home. And so from there, like things just started to accelerate. They started to build. I got a sales job, all the whole nine, and start really growing. And we can tell more of the professional story. But I think that was the shift, and what God really taught me was just walk in obedience, and I'll take care of you. And so, it's super pivotal. I still think about it to this day, and I'm like, acceleration happened. Like literally, the next 2 years were just a blessing. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great story. So you get that gas money, you get home, and now you start to apply these things, and you start in your sales career on that side. What were you selling?
Yeah, so it's kind of consulting selling. It wasn't just like I've done door to door before, all that good stuff, kind of leading up to that 2 year time frame. But I did. It was kind of like it was an education platform for real estate investors. And so there's a guy, he's local to the Valley named Pace Morby, and so Pace is a rock star. He's speaking on stages with Grant, all this stuff. But 2.5 years ago, he was just on the lift off, and so I did his mentorship, stuff like that, and helped him build that brand and grow that to what it is today. And so it's just crazy, man. Like top 5 real estate mentorships in the world, not just real estate. So. Anyways, it was super cool to be a part of that, see the growth, the shift, and so in that was kind of just the real estate investing education was really what I sold, and it was cool to see that growth.
That's huge. So when did you start your company, the Elite Leadership?
Yeah, ELS. So Elite Leadership Solutions lifted off literally like 4 months ago, man.
Okay.
But I've been in leadership for probably about 7 years. Ever since I lifted off, stopped playing basketball, I started to apply the leadership principles and into like influencing people, just kind of pouring into them, mentoring, possibly even just like there's a lot to that. But I think I studied under John Maxwell, if you're familiar, John C.
I love John Maxwell.
John C. Maxwell. So I think
I've got 3 books over there,
dude,
and his Bible.
Yeah. Study Bible, right?
Yeah.
So literally probably 4 books out of the 80, 90 he's written,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that he was a huge mentor of mine, still is, and I studied under him for like 7 years, 2 years under a John Maxwell coach, working on my certification. The book that I'm writing, I'm actually working on getting him to do the foreword of it.
Wow.
And so that's something we can, obviously talk about in time, but that's been a really cool opportunity for me just to grow under his leadership principles, absorb all those. I'm like, dude, this is so correlation with not only faith but basketball. And so that just kind of coming together, man, was really it's been really special to grow within myself, learning the habits, the leadership principles, servant leadership, all that good stuff. And so yeah.
Yeah, I love John Maxwell. So I said 3 over there. You guys can't see, but there's a bookshelf over there. I got hundreds of books at home,
Yep.
and I literally probably have 10 of his because
Yep.
he writes a book a month.
Dude,
I mean, it's
he pumps them
insane
out.
how
Hotcakes.
not only how quickly he does it, but like how different they are from each
Yes,
other.
they are. It's
You
crazy.
would think it'd just be this constant repurposing of the same material.
Yep.
It's not. There's
Yep.
different stories. There's different principles he's pulling out of it. So, like, what does leadership mean to you as far as, like, what principles do you focus on a lot when you're doing your leadership training and coaching?
Yeah. So leadership, man, is again, you can't lead others if you don't lead yourself, and you can't pour into others if you can't someone's pouring into you. I always say you have to have someone before you and behind you, right? Someone before you who's kind of leading the way, they're giving the path, their mentorship. Someone behind you that you're mentoring, so you have that fulfillment, you have that growth, and helping. It's not just all about you. You're pouring into someone else, right? So I think for leadership, for me, man, is just again kind of pouring into yourself, allowing someone to pour into you so you can pour into others and overflow. And then I think for me, it's just like I think of leadership. I break it down to stewardship and ownership. And so I call it like the 3 ships, right? But yeah, the ownership is like owning your mistakes, owning yourself, owning like who you are. And even if you take it a step further in Christ, like who we are in Christ is we are not our own, we're His children, right? I got on my shirt, chosen. So, you think of like being a chosen child of God and what that looks like. And I think that like having that leadership from Christ ultimately and what His life looked like, I just want to live like Him. And so if I'm leading others, my heart and my goal is to go and make disciples, right? But I call them leaders, right? Because we're all leaders at the end of the day. So, answer your question, man, I think leadership to me is broken down in that stewardship and ownership. So that ownership piece, stewardship is more of like stewarding what you have, right? Being grateful for those things, and then allow the capacity to grow and expand as you're stewarding what you have. God will, bless you with more, allow you to provide you with more to steward, and all for His kingdom. So, that's absolutely.
I like that a lot because, and I knew we've all heard it. Sometimes you got to have somebody pour into your cup, but it fills up.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to, if you don't empty yourself and pour into somebody else's cup and let the cup go down a little bit, you can't be filled up again.
That's right.
And you can, the growth stops. It's the whole tithing principle, right? So you're giving, and sometimes it's, especially early as Christians, like, I don't know, it's 10%. But no, you give knowing that, okay, I'm pouring 10% out of my cup because it's going to come back and it's going to overflow. And like, that's the promise of it. But like, that's a principle that you can use in anything. Yep. So I like that a lot.
That's good.
So who are the types of people that are a really good fit for what you do from a career standpoint?
Yeah, from a career standpoint, man, I've been trying to dial this into a niche, but I just think I call it purpose consulting, right? I help people dial in who are they personally, so that they can overflow or pour into and grow professionally. So I help kind of on the personal to professional level. So the ideal person is just someone who's like maybe a 9-to-5er, or someone who's just like feels constrained and not passionate in their job that they're doing. It can even be sales, right? You're selling something that you're not really passionate about, but you want to sell your own product, which could be something you create. It could be something, a service, something like that. But I think those are kind of the 2 people, is like a 9-to-5er who's not passionate and needs some kind of shift or a pivot to maybe entrepreneurship or sales as to start. So kind of just helping them navigate through that. But that's more of the professional side. So I help them dial in, like, who are they personally? Like, what are your 5 F's? Faith, family, fitness, finances, fuel. Dial that in, and then obviously the professional, once you find out who you are, whose you are, what's your values, what's your character, what are the challenges that you've walked through, throughout your life, values, once again. So that's kind of how that operates and how that plugs into, you know, who that ideal person is that I can serve, and just that's my heart, man, is to truly serve and impact through the things that I've learned, and grow through that.
So, and one of the things that intrigued me when we had coffee a couple weeks ago, you were talking about your 150-day program.
Yes.
Let's tell me a little bit about that, and let's let the audience know about that.
I mean, every person in the space, whatever, everyone has a program, right? And so my heart in that, man, is to kind of disrupt the space, because there's a lot of like, take action, but it's like, which direction are you headed?
Yeah.
So it's good to take action, but are you in line with your vision and values and where you want to be? So for me, man, it was like, all right, this first 50 days, let's create a custom roadmap of who you are, what is your character, what are your challenges, and then from that, the next 100 days, we're going to take action on where you want to be, your roadmap. So I'm here to help you customize the roadmap, and in the next 100 days, take action on that, so you're heading in the direction which you want to be. Of course, there's no perfect direction, but you can have a target to reach and an area where you're headed and a vision, and then create values that align with that so that you can be on the right path, the right journey, right?
Yeah, that's huge, because like the old adage, begin with the end in mind,
Sure.
If you don't have a target to know where you're going, I mean, you can just work yourself into a tizzy and get nothing done, and really be, at the end of 150 days, you could be really nowhere further than you were than the start, just tired and probably a little bit irritated, and maybe even down on yourself a little bit.
Burnout.
So I love that, because the process of setting up who you are, knowing who you are first, and then saying, cool, now we're going to apply actions that go through that filter, and now you're going to a direction, to a target. I think it's huge, because you're right, there's a ton of coaching programs out there that they all do a good job as far as like from an accountability standpoint. I think that's one thing that they all hit on. But what they miss is, again, a plan that not only people can follow, but after that 150 days, it's not like they stop, right?
Sure.
What does it look like after the 100, like that last 100 days?
Yeah, so I really want to touch on that, because the mentorship side of things, the hey, buy my program, like, I think what I'm doing is disrupting that space with the intention to help that person specifically, because you can have modules all day, you can have hey, watch my video content, and that can be so generic and specific, or generic, but I want to be specific in what I provide, because it's based on what they want and what they need, versus on like a broad overview. You know what I mean? So going into that, I think just the opportunity is to just kind of narrow that down and get specific. But post 100 days, or 50, 100, the next 100, it just goes in 100-day increments. So in that 100 days, the first 100 days after 50, we dial in what is your number one thing you want to accomplish personally and professionally in 100 days. And so when that momentum starts, there's things that start breaking through. You know who you are, you know where you're headed, so things start clicking and happening. So after that first 100 days, then it's like, all right, well, what else do we want to accomplish? And so we're just accomplishing tasks, we're getting stuff done, and we're growing and developing in the direction we want to head. And there's no stopping that freight train once you have your foundation built. You mentioned about the house built on the rock and the house built on the sand. Like, once you have that solid foundation, it's go time. So each 100 days, it just goes in 100-day segments and goes on till that person is either fulfilled and know what they need and know where they need to head, or they just need that direction, that guidance, that accountability to continue on, or they're just ready to soar and grow and thrive. So it's kind of what that process looks like.
That's great. Yeah, when I was younger, I was actually a part of a multi-level, but one of the things I really took away from that, it was Amway. I'm not doing it anymore, but when I was 19 to about 26, I did it for a while. We did everything in what we called 90-day blasts. And then I still apply that to this day. Like, I have goals in the next 90 days. So you're doing 100 days.
Yep.
And it's the same kind of thing. It's easier to focus on what I'm going to do in the next 90 days and what I want to accomplish, rather than saying, here's what I want to accomplish for the year.
Sure.
Granted, you can chunk that back, but then you dial it back to, here's what I'm going to do today. Here's the things that I'm going to establish. Like the 75 Hard program that Andy Frisell put together. I think that's what's so valuable about it, is because it's giving them these chunks of time to do it. And it's amazing what you can accomplish in 100 days. I mean, like, personally, as far as reading. Like, think about it. If you
Absolutely.
read 10 pages a day, that's 1,000 pages.
Yep.
And that's, that's probably 5 to 7 books, I would guess.
Yep.
What does 5 to 7 books do for somebody?
Sure.
Or I want to make, an extra, whatever, $5,000 a month. Yep. Great. How am I going to do that? And then, bam, in the next 90 days, here's what I'm going to do every day to get my sales calls. Here's what who I'm going to reach out to. Those types of things are huge. So I love that. And it's now after they're done with 150 and you set them up, the next 100, or does the coaching continue with you, or are they just kind of like fly bird and touch base?
No, I think it's a once a week kind of connection over that 100 days. I check in. Hey, how? So one thing, full disclosure, this 100 days is structured into a journal, and it's not my journal. It's John Lee Dumas, one of the guys. One of my, he's just a good guy, solid dude. Entrepreneur on Fire is his podcast. He's done a lot of stuff. So I actually messaged him on Instagram, hit him up, and said, hey, sent him a video message. I was like, dude, I love your stuff. I've been following a lot. Your 100-day journal has changed my life. And so I was like, do you mind if I use that as part of my structure? He's like, dude, by all means, go. Use it, soar, and grow kind of thing. And so from there, I was like, all right, this is perfect. Like, this 100 days, first 50 we grow, next 100 we thrive. And so in that, it's actually structured where it's 10-day sprints. So every 10 days, you have your goals broken down into 10-day increments. And so it helps you kind of, like you're saying, like, have that goal and structure within a 10 days. Then I can do, accomplish tasks. And it breaks it down obviously into granular, like one every single day, what are you doing to move the needle forward? And so that kind of, that structure incrementally helps you build the monumental goal, right? And so that kind of, it's based on SMART goals, right? SMART, that SMART structure, right? The acronym. So, it goes through that, and then from that SMART goal, you're breaking it and putting it into action in a calendar. So what I do is help people dial in their calendar and then this 100-day goals. So they have their habits, they have their goals, and it aligns personally and professionally. So it's this momentum builder.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and that's great too, having those 10-day sprints, because that's a really easy thing to focus on and almost have, not that you want to celebrate all the time, but like have that little celebratory. Awesome, pat yourself on the back a little bit. I accomplished this, because the consistency, that's a muscle that you can build.
Yes.
And that's something that I still, at 39, I'm just now realizing how much of a muscle that's something you can either build or let go weak. It's just, it's like exercise, right? But your brain's the most powerful muscle that we have.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
'Cause I think with entrepreneurship, a lot of times, even at a young age, like my thing was like, head down, grind it out, keep grinding until you look up and see what you've accomplished, which is great. I love the process. I love the grind, the grit. But it's like you said with the wins, man, it's sometimes good to take off the blinders and look how far you've come and celebrate that. Because if you don't, you're going to get burnt out. And that's what I did when I was in the 2.5 years of growth and sales and all this. Like, dude, I got so burnt out because I didn't celebrate the wins. I just kept head down. And that's one thing that I took away from college basketball and playing overseas and stuff. Like, my coach in college was incredible, man. But one thing that I was challenged with is we didn't celebrate the wins. We would always go after every game. There was no celebration. It was simply, hey, back to business the next day. We're going to practice, whatever it was. Sometimes we'd run suicides or run sprints after the games because we didn't win by enough points or whatever it is. So it's like, celebrate the wins and enjoy that, and then the next day it's like, all right, back to the drawing board. How can we continue to move in momentum? So sorry, man, I had to say that.
I love that. Well, and it kind of brings something else to my mind. We've all heard the saying that the rearview mirror is small for a reason, because you're not always supposed to look backwards.
Sure.
But it's also there for a reason, because sometimes you need to look backwards, right? Yeah. And that's the thing that I've been much better in my life by saying, okay, cool, I'm going to celebrate some of the wins, because sometimes you're just getting your teeth kicked in, and it can be tough, like the day to day, and but then you have that new contract, that new that you sign, or you have that new business partner you meet, the new company you establish, any of those kind of things. You have a new baby that's born, or a birthday, like. Take time to celebrate and enjoy that, because that's what life's about. It's not just about grinding forever. That's what drives me insane about some of the books that are out there. And there's always great nuggets in every leadership or every success book, right?
Sure.
Always. But then there's some that are just like, no, just grind it out. You got to be, this gigantic hard ass to make a bunch of money and to have this. Well, you really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's personality is different.
Sure.
But so I think it's important to look in the rearview mirror every once in a while.
Yeah.
Now, faith is big for you. I know that. In fact, it was really cool because when we met, I think I had mentioned a little breakout session that I was leading at our church that weekend, and you were like, "Can I come?" And I never expected that, and you did. You showed up, to that. So, and I found out like you have your own men's organization.
Yes.
What's that called again?
The Kingsmen.
The Kingsmen.
Yep.
So, and that's a group of guys and it's fellowship, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how did faith come into your life? Was it always something there, or did it come later?
Yeah, it was always the foundation principles on faith. Great. Raised up in an incredible home. Mom and dad raised me well. Faith. Home, baptized at 8. I mean, I could share the whole testimony, but I think what in the background of that, man, was like I started to live more for Dillon and for more instead of for him and my creator. And I think that things started to get a little twisted and shift, and it just became about me, right? And so it became about basketball. It became about business. It became all about these other things that were my identities versus my identity in Christ. And so that background in faith like started to get distorted a little bit in the middle of my life. And so in the past 3 years, man, I've just literally had that full surrender and commitment to everything I do is to honor my creator because he created me and he also gave his life for me, right? So it's like it's not like a owe or a debt. It's more just like it's an honor, right? It's an honor to serve. It's an honor to develop and grow and steward what he's blessed me with. So I think that's just kind of my take on faith, a little bit of my background in that, but it's definitely always been raised in the church home. It's just a matter of staying focused and keeping the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And I think it happens to all of us.
Sure.
There's different times in our lives where you kind of forget. Maybe you get out of the habit of, looking at the Bible and reading and studying and trying to really renew your mind every day, which is what we're told to do. And when you're right, you start focusing on your identities instead of your identity through him, things get thrown off a little bit. And I've had times, even recently, so I was sick for several months, almost died, heart failure, the whole thing. And anyway, during that time, I could do nothing but reflect. I mean, I was laying down for 9 hours a day just trying to recover. And the one thing that resonated through that entire time was like, I am a Christian. Like, God made me for a purpose. I have something to give the world. And I need to make sure that I'm focusing on what he wants me to give to the world rather than what I want from the world. You know what I'm saying? And so, faith is such I think, a critical thing. And what I hear so much, when you're listening to podcasts and some of the people that even in Arizona entrepreneurs, you don't realize it until you start talking to them. But faith's a big part for most of the people that are having the successes. There's a reason behind that.
Sure.
God wants us to help others. The only way he can bless others is through people.
Sure.
It's not like he comes down and shakes hands and gives people money and all that kind of stuff, but he can through you in a relationship, and that's what's so cool.
Yeah.
So you got a book coming out. I'm excited about this. You said February 2022?
23, this upcoming year, exactly.
Awesome, man. So what's the book about?
Yeah, so it's kind of aligned with what I'm doing with the structure of ELS. So turn that into a book, and in the book, I've been developing this book for 7 years, man. So a lot of my coaching, teaching, philosophies, concepts, what do you want to say, is based on this book. And so it's things I've learned on basketball, things I've learned throughout business, life, and general lessons. Maybe my dad taught me, my generation of family have taught me all the way through. So part of it is to honor my family. And I'm really on this push to get it done ASAP because my family is not getting any younger, right? I have both sets of grandparents alive, which is a blessing. And so just want to honor them and kind of set that legacy for honoring them, but also the destiny and the things that I'm leaving my children to come. So that book that's the kind of the foundation of it a little bit. It's called The Purpose Pursuit. So I'm a firm believer in our purpose doesn't find us. We find it as we pursue it, right? Take actions on the things, that we're passionate about, right? So I think going into that, man, it's they're dialed into 8 pillars. I love chapters, but I think pillars there's a lot more significance for me. And so those pillars are kind of just life lessons that I've learned that have helped me pursue my purpose, to stay persistent, to stay patient, to stay, positive perspective shift, like all that. So I don't know, that's just kind of at least the high level view.
Yeah.
And those are kind of some of the things, like the structure and what it'll include and kind of look like.
And we don't want to give it all away, but you give me one pillar. Like,
yeah.
Let's give a little taste.
So one of the, just kind of thinking through, man, that's tough because they're all different and they're all really
kind of work together.
Together. They feed off each other. But I think something that's in my head that's just popping up is like Gandhi talks about be the change you want to see in the world, right? And so I think one of the pillars is content but not complacent. And so for me, content is like, it kind of goes back to stewardship, honestly. And so stewarding what you have, being content and happy and grateful, the word gratitude, being grateful for what you have, and then being able to have that capacity to receive more as time goes on, as things, be able to receive more, to give more and create more impact. And then the complacency side is like, I feel like, honestly, man, I lived in a home, in an environment, in a community of complacency. 9 to 5, you go check in your job, you check out, you go home, you sit on your couch, you eat with a family, you drink a beer, and you go to bed. Like, it's just so simple, and it's like, well, what's the impact inside of that? Yeah, if you're stewarding your family and you're raising leaders and growing them, like, that's one thing. But if there's not an intentionality in that, then what's the point? I mean, I don't know. It's just like, I had that realization, and so for me, I'm not saying everybody needs to be an entrepreneur, but I am saying, what is your niche, and what is that how can you impact the world? What's your platform? And so complacency is like, it's kind of like a pond versus a river, right? If you sit there, you're going to gain mold and over time, like, you know what I mean? Versus a river that's constantly flowing, it's constantly moving, it's constantly moving things, and so that river versus the pond, content but not complacent, is kind of that, at least one of the pillars. I could go more in depth, but the principle on the Pollard, I call them the Pollard P's, is the purpose pursuit is based on the Pollard P's. And that's when it's like, it starts with the Pollard P's, then it goes into the 8 pillars. So the Pollard P's are, it's passion, purpose, platform. So your passion and your platform equal your purpose. So it's like, what are the things that fuel you, motivate you? That's passion. The things that you're founded on, the things that your skill sets, that you how you operate on a day-to-day basis, that's your platform, your voice, right? And that equals your purpose because you're walking those things out, putting them together, and you're walking out your calling versus going through a career.
That's huge. Well, I'm excited to read the book. I think it'll be good, and to kind of hear from your perspective, because I've got a chance to know you a little bit, and even today even more.
Sure.
And you're a really good communicator, but also I'm sure there's some really cool stories and stuff you're going to tie to that. So be on the lookout for that, guys. How can people find you on social media and look at your coaching as well?
Yeah, however I can help, man. I think the platforms just kind of turn and shift. Dillon Pollard _ is Instagram. DillonPollard _ is IG. That's pretty simple. Under IG, I have like my link tree. It has podcasts that I've done before. It has the website, all that good stuff, contact info, and then from there, just reach out. Like, just DM me on Instagram. Send me a video message, whatever it is, and I'll give you my number. We'll talk and just see how I can serve and support. I think just from that, those are just kind of a couple of things that come to mind. Mention podcast, The Lion's Den. We can just briefly mention that. That's something that's dropping. It's going to be based on the Pollard P's, so passion, purpose, platform. Dillon means the lion, and Leroy, my middle name, means the king. So it's just something that the logo to my brand and ELS is a lion with a crown. So that meaning behind that is just kind of what the Lion's Den will become. It's welcome to the Lion's Den, right? So just kind of bringing people in, similar to what you're doing, interviewing them, hear their story, what are their Pollard P's, and grow from there. But that's kind of a side piece on the podcast. But yeah, those are main ways to connect. I'm sure you'll post something in the bio or something like that to have contact info. So that's me.
There'll be links to all that. But no, this is awesome, man. I appreciate you coming in today, and I'm sure we'll have you back at some point. Maybe we'll do a roundtable, talk about leadership, some other business minds. That'd be a lot of fun. But hey, guys, I know you got a ton out of this, so make sure that you like this episode. Reach out to Dillon. You know, if you're needing, help getting on that right path and you need some coaching, I think that 150 days would pretty much change anybody's life if you want it. So I appreciate you guys tuning in to this, and we will see you next time.